So, dude, we made it out the group chat, huh?
I know,
Crazy.
finally.
4 months ago in Italy, having lunch, talking about doing a podcast.
Now we're here.
We're doing it.
Yeah, one day or day one. Today's day one.
So what made you want to do this podcast?
Mainly just because of the fact that, we're highly successful people at very young ages, and I feel like we have a lot to give to the world, a lot to give to the young people as well. Both of us are college dropouts, and we've gotten into sales at a very young age, and we are ended up scaling our income all the way to the multi-millions. So it was pretty great.
Hey man, I don't know if my parents know if I'm a college dropout, so don't say that on air. I'm just joking. But no, dude, yeah, you're right. I would have never thought this would be my life, if I'm being honest. Coming from like the family that I come from, I always thought I would be like a lawyer. I was actually dead set on being a lawyer because like coming from a brown household, it's always like you either have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And I always thought like, okay, out of the three, I'd be a lawyer. Like growing up, I thought school is probably the most important thing. But I think, is that just me or is that something that happens in America too? Like there's huge focus on you gotta go to school and that's the only thing that matters.
Oh, 100%. Like literally you graduate high school, you get to go into university, you start working as an intern, and then from there you graduate and eventually you make 90 grand a year until you die. That's kind of the gist.
90 grand, that's a pretty good job, honestly.
I would say
I think the average income is what, like 56?
56, yeah, but 6 years of school, paying off debt, all that stuff, kind of got to make it worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so like growing up, it was always, for me, was like, I got to get into the best school, because if school is the best thing, as a 13-year-old, my dream was to go to Harvard. Like I even like went on my Facebook, I changed everything. I'm like, goes to Harvard. My dad would clown me for it. And in hindsight, like I realized I never wanted to be a lawyer. I just wanted to be a very rich lawyer, if that makes sense. Like the life that comes with it is probably more appealing. Like I grew up in Pakistan, so Suits was popular when I was like 12. So I grew up on that show. I wanted to be Harvey Specter. But they never tell you that that's not how Harvey Specter's life is.
Thanks.
Like a lot of it's just you're buried in paperwork. My sister, she's becoming a lawyer right now, and that's what she says. But yeah, what did you go to school for?
I originally was going to school for nursing because I felt like throughout my life I wanted to be
nursing.
Nursing.
I don't know. I can see you as a nurse, dude. What?
No, I just wanted to help people, bro. I felt like making a positive impact in the world was something that was essential for my existence, and at the time it was like the most easiest way to help people is by something reactive. Hey, you're sick, you come to the doctor's office, I make you better. And then once I kind of got into sales, it was like, how can sales help people? I feel like sales is looked at as in like, oh, this guy's gonna pressure me into get something I don't wanna get, make a bad decision here and there. But what I found was when we started doing security sales and camera sales we're more in a proactive way of making the world a better place. Not everybody's gonna get their home broken into or is ever gonna have like maybe a fire in their household. Yeah. But the systems that I were selling and marketing fixed that particular thing. And it was a proactive way of being able to help people, which was able to fuel my passion to be a better salesperson because I knew I was doing something positive throughout the world.
Dude, you're pretty selfless, dude. I started doing sales because I was broke, dude. That was it. I just wanted to make money. Now, after I feel like making a little bit of money, achieving a little bit of success, you become far more selfless where when your buckets are filled, you want to help other people now. I feel like I was far more selfish of a person when I was broke. I would shoplift from Walmart and say, fuck corporations, you know what I mean? Because you're struggling, you're like, dude, nobody gets my story, So now, yeah, definitely going out there, getting a little bit of money changes that aspect completely where it's like, how can I give back to other people now that God has blessed me in whichever capacity he has,
Facts. I feel like to top on that, when it's the rise to the top, you kind of got to be selfish. You got to put your head down, you got to grind. And there's not much to give if you don't have much to give, So at the same time, as you work your way up the ranks and as you become somebody, then now you have more to offer people, which really makes the purpose of the podcast, being able to kind of start from the bottom, being relatable to anybody, and then being able to rise to the top, live an amazing lifestyle, being able to make impacts, all throughout the world between customers, people that we teach and mentor, and then also changing our own lives and our own families' lives. Like, you can't have a conversation with mom or dad without them mentioning how proud they are of me, which is just a beautiful thing, at the end of the day. What would you say your family's thoughts are as far as who you became? Like, what would you say is like the best
Where it
thing?
started or where it's at?
Where it's at now.
Different. Dude, my parents, they're some tough cookies. They had some really high expectations for me, you know, being the only son, coming from Pakistan. That's it's a totally different world. Going into this, obviously they wanted me to pick a certain profession, but I didn't. I went ahead and did sales. Even initially, I didn't think that sales would be something that I would grasp towards and end up becoming my career. They were totally against me doing it, and I kind of just did it against their will.
But you were like in debate and like stuff, kind of in
They
school
don't
and
want me to
stuff.
do that either. They didn't want me to stay after school and do debate. They just wanted me to go to school and come home and get straight A's. But then again, like I feel like it took a while to realize that in life you shouldn't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with.
Right.
And I love my parents to death, but I don't want to live the life that they live, right? Not that it's in any way bad, it's just not what I want for myself.
Exactly. You don't find passion. Like my dad was a plumber. My mom was a government employee. Nothing crazy. Like I would correct me if I'm wrong, but we both came from like lower middle class families.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in the US, you know, my parents had, you know, each their own car to get back and forth to work, and I barely saw them in between school. And we had like dinner, and then we would go to bed, and that was that.
Yeah, 2 cars, I had 1. We share that shit.
Share the hoopty-doo. What's up?
But
That's good.
yeah, in hindsight though, like now my parents obviously they love what I do, probably because I retired them and it worked out. But
Same.
while it's happening initially, a lot of people around you don't believe you because they want to put their failures or maybe their fears onto you. And I have one of those moms that loves me so much, she doesn't want me to do something hard.
Facts.
So when she realized that I was going door to door selling people, in her mind, that's just so hard and my poor son. So she just told me not to do it. And my dad made fun of it at first because he didn't know much about it. So they told me to go to school, do that. And then I ended up dropping out of college. But even me, I didn't think this would be a career. Like coming into this sales thing, I'm like, I'm just doing this to raise money for law school. Like I would never be a door-to-door salesman. Like why would I knock on people's doors? That's embarrassing. And I ended up dropping out of undergrad. So it definitely came full circle. I feel like up until you don't fill a couple buckets for yourself as a man, and that'd be like moving out at a young age, having your own place, paying all of your own bills, right? Like not that dad's paying the phone bill.
Yep.
You're paying every single bill.
Facts.
That essentially changes you and also changes what you think you want out of life, right? Like I was willing to probably spend, 12 years to become a lawyer to then realize I never wanted to be a lawyer.
Facts.
And then my mental state for sure at that time would have been a little too late. So I would have stuck with a profession and stuck with a life that I probably never wanted.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with pessimist parents. You know, my mom, same, loved me to death. Anything I wanted to do, she'd be down for, and she didn't want me to experience any type of hardship in my life. My dad was always against everything I ever did. It was like his way or the highway. And when I first started doing sales and stuff, they wanted to find every reason as to why I shouldn't. And sometimes I get that look in my eye where it's like, no matter what you're gonna say, I'm gonna do the opposite or just kind of go with my heart and go with my trust. I'm very so much made upon risk. And that was the risk that I had to take. You know, I flew to Maryland my first summer, didn't really make a ton of money, but it was enough to be able to prove to myself I can do things that are hard. Because I was the type of person that was good at a lot of things, not to toot my own horn, but, you know, when it came to baseball, it kind of came natural. You know, hard work always was a preface of it. But when it came to making friends and stuff like that, but
Sales didn't come easy for you.
at all. You know, I was the worst person in the team at first, and it was more or less a thing where is that I had to work hard. I wanted to give up, and anytime I found myself in a position where things were hard, I would just quit and then find something else I'm good at. And for the first time in my life, I was experiencing failure as a way of growth, because that was what I was missing in my younger years. When I was 18, 19, when I started working for Vivint, was I was missing failure. And what I realized is that if you're afraid to fail, you're afraid to grow. And through the hardship and through the repetition and trial and error and just doing things wrong, but then somehow making them right was what led to figuring it out. And then once you figure it out, it's just like, how bad do you want it? And how hard are you willing to work for it? And this job is scalable. You know, can we be LeBron James? No. You know, I don't think I'm tall enough to dunk, and, you know, I'm white already, so that's already against me. So, you know, can I be Drake? You know, I'm not that good at rhymes. You know, I'm barely able to make a podcast right now. But what we do as far as going door to door, it's like not an easy job. It's not sexy, but it's scalable. If you want to make the same amount of money as us, you go out there, you put in the work, and you grind. Simple as that. And you got to keep a positive attitude, and you got to make it happen. And people don't have that.
You just gotta be okay with failure, right? That was like a really big part. I feel like a lot of us at a young age, all of our passions, things we want to devote our life to were things that maybe we were good at initially, but that's not really where success lies. It's like in the failure.
Thanks.
But every young person, I bet, can agree with this, that like growing up, you are loved by one parent, right? A lot. So you think you're special. You have this God complex. You think you're better than everybody. And then you have somebody in your life, maybe the other parent, telling you that you'll never be enough, and you're always measured against your accomplishments. For me, that was my dad.
Same.
And the other one was my mom. But then the last thing I've noticed is delayed gratification, right? Like having the tunnel vision where you think you're better than everybody, you have a reason to prove you're better than everybody, and now you can go out and do it and not focus on other things while you're doing it, not get sidelined, not get distracted. Because at least for me growing up, being rich or being successful was an event. Felt like one day I'll trade a stock, I will meet a very successful person, and they're just gonna make it happen because I just felt like I was lucky. I felt like I'm special. But like you said, like failure is probably the most important part to success because it's not an event. It is a progress. It is
a process.
Like a journey.
Yeah, it's all about the
essentially a long time that you have to go through to then make it.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to fail, I guess you're in for a long ride.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%.
We're talking about failure. You're definitely used to failure, right? Like you used to play baseball. That's a failure sport.
Exactly. And that's kind of how I relate to a lot of my success to the real world is playing baseball. You know, it's a sport where you can strike out 4 times in a game and be the best player on the team. And then the next game, you could do the same exact thing and the same exact thing. And of course, you're not the best person then. But at the same time, like it's a failure sport. You can't let things eat you up. And to relate it to kind of sales and doing things like that is that this doesn't come easy. You know, this is something that you have to work at. And as much as I want to think hard work is like the most important thing, I feel like it's more positive mindset and like being able to be the guy that doesn't allow things affect him mentally. And you can control you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. And it's as simple as that. You know, there's days out when you go out there, you know, it's going to rain. There's days you don't feel like doing it, but you go out there and through God's grace, you do it anyways. You know, God puts us on this earth to do things that are hard when we don't want to do things that are hard. And, you know, if you continuously just go for it, you know, you're going to bring this success. It's a compound effect. So you do one thing time and time again, it's going to relate to a greater result. You wake up early, you go to the gym. You do that again the next day. Eventually waking up at 7 o'clock and taking a cold shower isn't something that's hard anymore. Going to the gym is no longer hard anymore. I think what people are caught up in, to relate to what you were saying about delayed gratification, was that people want quick results. Everybody wants the get rich quick, you know, hey, trade up Forex currency and the next thing you know, they're rich off of Bitcoin. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people got rich that way, but that's not for everybody. You know, if you don't catch these trends, then you're not going to get rich off of that. It comes down to being able to do the little things right time and time
again.
You got
all the money, but it won't give you the character that you need, right?
Yeah, if you get rich off the
lottery,
without
character and like the way you built it is, I'd say, more important, no?
I would say 100%. And the fact of the matter is, if you win the lottery, you know, most people that win the lottery go broke.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when you were broke, right? Like, have you ever had those thoughts? You're broke. You're like, if I had 50 grand, what would I buy?
Right.
And you're sitting there like, I would buy
properties.
this. If I had $1 million, what would I buy? So the truth is, if you give a majority of people in America all the money they think they want, they will spend it. Because in their head, they've already spent it.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like money alone is not a good metric to success.
Right, exactly.
Hence, you need the failure to build the character to then actually use the money accordingly.
Yeah,
right?
And then the money gained, you know, money gained is as quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. You know, the muscle that is developed through making money consistently through something that's scalable, you know, working harder at work, you know, that's the most important part. Because I like to think, like, if I went broke tomorrow, would I make it all back? The answer is abso-fucking-lutely. And I'd probably do it even better and get even a bigger bag. But it was never about the money in the long side. It was all about the competition and being able to make people proud around me as well, and just proving to myself as a young adult that I could do things differently. And I want to be the person that every time I have a conversation with someone I haven't spoke to in a while, they're like, man, dude, I'm proud of you. You're killing it. Yeah. Not for the praise, but just for the gratitude, you know?
Yeah, but what about those people that like, dude, like, it's hard, it's scary to start, right? Like, why quit whatever I'm doing and then go do something? You're already halfway up the mountain.
Yeah.
It is pretty scary, you know? Taking that initial jump.
Yeah.
Because I jumped into sales, honestly, not knowing anything about it. I did it solely because life at the moment was not good. So this couldn't make it worse, that's for sure. So let me just go ahead and try it. Now, some people don't have it that way, where they experience that much pain that they have to change.
Yep.
Yet they know they should. How do I get myself to then just do it?
I mean, it really just comes down to like a point of struggle at the end of the day. You know, when I first started doing this, I had $300 in my bank account. I was working at Macy's. I was standing up all day, working 60-hour weeks, making $400, $500. I had an out-of-state tuition that needed to be paid. My parents couldn't afford it. So it was like a make or break situation. I have an option where I can stop going to school or go to a cheaper university and kind of go against the dreams that I had of coming out here, becoming a baseball player and stuff, you know, and all that. And once I got hurt, there was no plan B. You know, there was always just a plan A, which was to be a professional ball player. And then if that didn't work out, then I was just going to be, you know, a nursing anesthetist or something like that after 12 years of school. But I think when your back's against the wall is when you should take the risk. People feels that if they have nothing, you know, let me stick with my stable job so that I can pay my bills. But in reality, that might be a smart decision then, but what it leads to is you in the same position the next year and the next year and the next year. You need to have that feeling of
you got to go out there and just get it
done.
Just take the step. 'Cause I feel the biggest fallacy told is people that are planning, you know, that like they're just working it out right now. They're in the process, right? Like still training on a certain aspect.
Yeah.
I feel like nobody ever got good planning or even watching something happen, right? Like if you watch enough basketball, will you be good at basketball? For that logic, I'd be really, really good at basketball, right? Like you have to play basketball.
To get
you
good
have
at
to
basketball.
do the thing that is the most frightening to get good at it.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. It's just something that you just kind of got to like sink or swim. Repetition is key. And a lot of people want to think about it and talk about it, but being about it is the most important thing. Putting that front foot forward and just continuously walking regardless of the obstacles.
Yeah.
And just making shit happen out of thin air. Sometimes you just got to do that. Not everybody's made for it.
Yeah.
But you will never know until you try.
Yeah, there's like needing to be rich and then wanting to be rich, right? A lot of people want the nice car, want the nice vacation, want the nice house, but do they need it? I guess essentially a lot of action happens when you need to do something.
Exactly.
Like the pain of the status quo has to be so much that not changing is more painful, right? Like you're everything is falling apart, right? I feel like, I don't know where I heard this, but if you're already going through hell, why stop there?
Right.
Right? Like just keep going. So at least for a lot of people, especially like anything, something like working out, right? Like going to the gym, you come back home and you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, dude, I worked out all day. It didn't do anything for me.
Exactly.
Why do it again? That part is really difficult too. Essentially, we all kind of just work off of a reward basis where I need some type of reward to justify my effort. Otherwise, what am I putting in the effort? A lot of people can easily like fail right there where you're putting in effort, but you don't get the immediate result. So this must not be effective.
Exactly. That's where a lot of people fail. You know, they're chasing that piece of cheese at the end of the tunnel. They're not focusing on the full pie. And you know, I feel like having a good habit and routine is critical to being successful in today's world. And it's not just like, hey, I'm gonna work harder at work and the more hours I put in, the more money I'm gonna make. I feel like a lot of my success, speaking on a personal level, has came from success outside of making money. You know, success spiritually, you know, having success mentally and emotionally and in different ways that I can set goals. And if you're kind of like maximizing all the different aspects of your life, then it comes together to then make income, you know, be able to broaden things outside of, you know, spirituality and things like that and being able to bring finances to your life.
Yeah. And I feel like we can't, this should definitely be known that if we're looking for reward, failure is reward.
Yeah.
For your effort. Like if there's not a better reward than failure. It's not success that's the true reward because two things come out of failure. A, you know, this definitely doesn't work, right?
Thanks.
And B, you know, you're just one more failure away
From success.
or one less failure away actually from success.
Exactly.
So if we can switch the mindset of young people, because that's really where my mind was coming into this, right? Like extreme amount of failure in the beginning demotivates you. It makes you think that what you're doing isn't worth anything.
Give up.
But I think I was told by somebody that if you were 10 no's away from $1 million company, how would you feel on the first no?
Great.
Or how would you feel on the 9th no?
Still feel
Static.
great.
You're only one no away from getting your dreams.
Facts.
So if failure is the best indicator for what you're doing, failure should be welcomed, right? Now, obviously, you need to keep changing things up. You can't keep doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result, and that's insanity.
Exactly.
But as long as you're constantly, success can be delayed, but it cannot be denied as long as you strive for it every single day. And I truly live by that. Like, it may take time, but it just can't be denied to you. You're giving it everything you got, right? So, like, especially for you, right? Like, how did it feel like going, or what particularly changed for you going from your first year where you said you were below average, right?
Yeah.
You said you were maybe one of the worst reps in the office, going from that to being the top rep in the company last year, clearing over $500,000 just in personal sales. Like, what was that mind shift? A lot of people would fail right there.
At one point, it comes to the point of learning it. And I think that there's a mixture of things. You know, obviously having that positive attitude, having that ability to think highly of yourself. You know, don't think of it as like being cocky. You know, more or less being confident within your own skin and knowing that anything is possible for as long as you're able to grind. Like you said, success may be delayed, but it won't be denied for as long as you work hard for it. I truly believe in that too. It was my first year. It was as simple as just figuring it out. And what I realized is the people that were better than me in the room, it wasn't that they were just naturally talented or that they were these killers and I would just never be in the same room as them or at the same level as them. It was just as simple as they've been in it longer. And the time that it took for them to get good is the same time and the same trial and error that needs to take for me to get good. And then shortly after that came, you know, me figuring it out and then using my hardest worker in the room kind of mentality to be able to rise to the occasion. And it was a lot of things. At first, it was like proving it to myself. After that came proving it to my people. And the only way that I can really prove that the opportunity is believable is by showing other people how it's done and training them how to do it as well. And I feel like part of sales is mastery. And once you get to a point of sales where you're training it and you're able to replicate yourself in it, then comes you becoming a better personal seller, you becoming a better leader, you becoming a better everything. I mean, how was it like for you? You know, when you first started, you were a pretty hot shot. You know, you were a rookie. You know, you came out selling strong.
Yeah.
And like, how were you able to kind of keep the fire? Like, where was it that you continuously went as opposed to falling into like the typical complacency, you know, throughout the job?
Well, I feel like you kind of said it earlier. It all comes down to competition. Like, you need to create essentially scenarios in your head to make you successful. For me, it was my dad yelling at me that this is not the opportunity. It was the person in the office that's like, oh, like, he's not gonna sell tomorrow. He's on a hot streak. Yeah. It's gonna die down soon, right? Like, those slight indignations I take personally, right? And now I make it a point to now go out of my way to prove to you that I can do this and I am meant for this. But I wouldn't say I started off, the talent was not the metric as to why I did good initially. I did do competitive debate since the 8th grade, so I really was horrible at debate when I started, like all of 8th grade, all of 9th grade.
Had a bit of a background.
Yeah, so the initial failure I guess the initial failure that I experienced was at a younger age, doing debate, getting in front of people, talking to them, arguing with them. Yeah, my parents and my debate coach tried to get me kicked off the team because I was staying too late after school. My parents didn't like it. I wasn't winning anything. And I just stuck with it. I kind of went against everybody, stayed on the team. By the 10th grade, I was the captain of the debate team. So that initial thing, getting in front of people, talking to them, really was helpful. But to make it in sales or to make it in any industry, I think talent isn't a good metric.
Nope.
Unless like you're a performer, or even if you were a performer or a rapper or a singer. I think the metrics that really matter are more habit related, right? Like, are you trainable? Are you willing to take constructive criticism? Are you positive, but not positive like my life is good positive? It's kind of easy to be positive when life is good.
Yeah.
Like positive, my life is shit. I've been doing this for weeks and there has been no result. Can I stay positive in that time? Showing up on time doesn't cost you anything. So there's a lot of things that we can do, like being a man or woman of our word, being disciplined, right? Having a strong attitude, or learning on our own when nobody's watching. Like, those kind of things are probably more important to success than being really good at debate for me, right? Like, you can be really good at debate, but if you don't focus on those habits, they don't come. And the only way to get yourself mentally in a place like that is internal motivation, something intrinsic. It has to be the chip on your shoulder or somebody you have to make proud. And everybody has somebody in their life that they can live for. If you can live for that person, may that be to remind them that you're better than them, or may that be to get them to be proud of you. That was a huge motivator for me, at least, to get out there regardless of how good I was doing.
I feel like the stronger the why, the stronger the will. You know, I feel as if every single year I reset why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it changes, you know, but at the end of the day, if you have that person you'll live for, like my persons to live for was my mom and dad. You know, I wanted to make them proud. I wanted to retire them. Thank God, God willingly, I was able to retire them by 20 years old, 21. And that was that. So once I got my parents taken care of, it was kind of like, who else's lives can I change? Because I know I'm not the only one that wants to make my parents proud. I know that I'm not the only one that wants to be, you know, a great person when every time I walk in the room, I bring light, I bring knowledge, I bring, you know, form of success and impact. So now if I can replicate myself and give young people opportunity to be able to succeed in a way that like I was able to succeed, then now my why is if one of my guys go and retire their parents, or they're making, you know, millions of dollars a year. And that was the why now. The why now is to be able to change the group around me. Like I hated the saying, you know, like bottles on me. Like, no, bottles on us. You know, we're all paid. Like, let's get it. You know, I want to be able to, my dream is to have multiple islands, whereas that if I wanted to go to an island, and let's say I have my own, and it's like I have a house on an island, and one of my buddies also have a house on an island, and we were all able to get success and wealthy together, because it's different between being rich and being wealthy. Wealthy is something that is a habit. You know, it's something that you have to continuously do over and over and over again and compound that income to be able to make something greater than what you made 100 grand a year. Like I'm sure you made 100 grand a year. How much did you spend on your car payment or your rent? That's the problem, is that people spend a lot of money and they don't make enough. And the world's only going up and up and up from there. So if we can generate generational wealth and also teach our people the knowledge that we have learned. You know, I didn't know about a credit card until I was already 19 years old type thing. You know, I was like, I didn't know anything about credit. That's not something you get taught in school. It's not something my parents were going to teach me. And it was as simple as like learning from the person you want to be like, to relate to what you were saying earlier. You know, I changed my major from nursing to business. And I realized when I was in this classroom, I was learning from the guy that was driving a Honda Civic, who's never ran a business before. And if I want to run a business and I want to be a successful businessman, this probably isn't the person to take the advice from. And then I had my mentor at the time, Adam Kinkler, who was driving a Lamborghini Urus, had multiple properties, and he was teaching business, has been running business for a very long time. That's what kind of encouraged me to want to drop out. Because like the best advice I was ever given is don't take advice from someone you wouldn't want to trade places with. And you know, as a young guy that was very hungry, I'd much rather drive the Urus than the Civic. And it was simple as that. You know, seek the right advice and you get the right results. Simple as that. You get what you're searching for.
Like that whole concept of like money doesn't matter, right? You've heard that a lot. And to a certain extent, it definitely doesn't, right? But the only way to say that is by having it, right?
Thanks.
But I feel like it's one of those things that gets boring so quickly. Like, and you don't have to make $1 million to get bored with it. I think like a couple 100,000 will get you to a place where you're like, what is life about, right? And success is like a fluid concept. Like I feel like it's something that constantly changes throughout your lifetime, right? Like you have levels of happiness. Like right now, as like, if I was like 18, my level of happiness would be buying my own first car. Right. That would be the height of happiness for me. Now, once I drive that car, I have it for a while, maybe another car, right? Or maybe somebody that lives at home, the height of their happiness right now is unlocking their own apartment where now they can live by themselves. So as you go through life, those levels kind of unlock. Now, once you have all the materialistic possessions or everything monetary, you're like, what is life about? And I feel like I kind of got to that point a couple years ago where I was questioning it. I'm like, what am I making all this money for if I already have all the things that I thought I could never have?
Yeah.
Right? And it comes down to relationships. Now, for me, the definition of success is building the most profound relationships with people before I can exit this earth. And if I can build a connection where I can impact your life, may that be with a sentence or an hour-long conversation, that could change the trajectory of how you end up living your life. And if you end up doing something positive, who did that affect? Your parents, your friends, all of these people now got a direct impact of you being successful.
Thanks.
So like that's definitely a moving target for people, like what success is, but it's very important to, I guess, take it level by level, right?
It's all about the journey.
100%.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say for sure when it comes down to like my happiness in my life, I've never been one to really chase happiness. I feel like happiness is a destination, if you think about it. Like, oh, I'm gonna get the job I want, I'm gonna buy the car I want, I'm gonna get the condo I want, and then I'm happy. What happens after that? You know, eventually it goes away. So what I like to really define and what I really like to chase is just joy. You know, I feel like the greatest moments in my life are the ones that are the ones where you're the happiest in that moment.
Yeah.
And just continuously trying to relive that joy. When you wake up, you're praying. When you're at the gym, I'm happy at the gym. You know, even when times are tough, you know, I'm still in that constant state of joy, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like if I chase happiness, it's gonna come to a destination that was once I'm happy, you know, I'm what happens next? Like I'm sad. So it's just like I live for the joy. I've seen this in Mykonos when we were out there rocking it in Mykonos. Like that was true joy in my life. You know, we were out at every of the top clubs in the world having a great time with the boys, and that's joy. Like, am I gonna be in Mykonos every day? No. But that same feeling of being with the boys in an area I've never been before, that same feeling of joy, you can find it in the simplicity every single day. Joy and simplicity.
You have nobody.
Yeah, and then you don't got to you don't have to tie your goal to happiness either. You can just live it. You know, I think that people are always asking like, what's next for you? Like, man, you're pretty successful. You've done this. You've kind of maxed out what you could do at Vivint, and that's not even the truth. You know, there's more that I could do. There's more that you can do. You know, we ran the #1 team in the company last year, but in reality, it's that I'm not focused on where I'm going to be when I'm 50. You know, I'm focused on where I'm going to be right now in this same moment. When I woke up today and I knew I was recording a podcast, I felt great. I felt amazing. I was enjoy the fact that I can start something new, and it's something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, the both of us, and we can finally come together, find some time in our schedules to make it fucking happen. And that's
yeah, but like, I love how you said like, you know, like in Mykonos, it was a great time, which is crazy because like when you're working, you're like, oh, I can't wait to go to Mykonos and be there in Ibiza and have so much fun. But for me, I've realized being in Mykonos that it's a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, best time of my life. But for me, true happiness is like the fourth quarter of a game you're playing in. You know, like right before it's about to end, like at the climax of the struggle. So for me, it was like a month before that where we were about to now finish as the #1 team in the company.
Thanks.
There's nothing more gratifying than perseverance, right? Like that's such a happy place for me to be. And I've realized that, at least for me, like I need some type of struggle to make me happy. Something I need to strive for that I'm trying to accomplish, some type of goal. Because without that, the money just seems bland. It doesn't even feel fun to spend because I haven't accomplished anything to spend it.
right.
But honestly, I feel like as like a young adult, especially if you're a man, happiness should not even be a true metric for what you should try to achieve in life. Because the thing about life is it'll give you everything that you want it to, but just one thing at a time, right? So you can be happy, but then that's all that you could be. You cannot be successful. You cannot retire your parents. You cannot do those things by being rich. If you want to be rich, you can be rich, but then you have to let go of everything else that comes with it. So I feel like as a young adult, a man, you are relied upon. There are certain things that you need to do. There's a responsibility to your family, to yourself, and the dreams and the person that you want to become. For me initially, the only thing I wanted was success, and I was willing to let go of all the happiness. In hindsight, did being successful, having some type of money make me happier? 110%.
Yeah.
But is that all the happiness? No, right? Like if I'm fighting with my spouse, fighting with my mom, or my best friend, am I gonna be happy that day? No.
Why not?
So it's essentially a fleeting concept. It's kind of like an orgasm, right? It only lasts for as long as it lasts. You can't be happy all the time. But then again, who would want to be happy all the time?
Yeah, because
right?
life would be no type of character built in that. If you're just fucking constantly getting everything you want. Like I feel like life is a concept between yin and yang. You know, as humans, we're problem solvers. You know, if life was so good all the time, naturally, we would find a way to fuck it up. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Trust me if I'm wrong, but I'm telling you, like, if there was not problems in our lives, we wouldn't be the people that we are.
No, for sure. And I definitely feel like for a lot of people, especially like young men, like that's just the way we think in problem solution. You ever tried talking to a girl and she's venting to you and you just start giving her solutions?
Yeah, without even
Like trying to. It took me a long time to realize you're not supposed to talk at that time. You're supposed to listen.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like your brain just works that way. It's wired to then go out there and solve the problem that's in front of you. But being very specific on what problem you're trying to solve, right? Like, are you trying to be happy? Are you trying to be successful, right?
Could be both.
Which in particular leads to what? And I think that everybody, their goal at a young age should be to get rich, not for the money and not the things that they buy, to then achieve a certain level of satisfaction to know what you really want to do.
Yeah.
I ask this to people all the time, like that are studying to become doctors and lawyers. I'm like, do you want to be a lawyer? And they're like, 100%. And I'm like, why do you want to be a lawyer? Oh, because I want to help people. Now, the question is, if being a successful lawyer paid horribly, $20,000 a year, would you do it? The answer is almost no, right?
Every single time.
A big reason as to why we pick what we pick is because it pays a certain way,
Facts.
right? If it didn't pay that way, would you do it? Would you show up to mop the floor 9 to 5 for 12 months straight for 100 grand with a smile on my face if I'm broke, right? Why wouldn't I do that? So it's not exactly what I'm doing sometimes, it's the result that comes from it. So if I'm gonna lead an entire life, end up being 35, to then figure out that I didn't want to do this with my life, you spend a lot of time doing something that you never wanted to do.
Yeah.
So if you're young, definitely go out there, do everything you can, come up with a plan on how to make money right now. Because if you can, it'll then move on to the next step in life. Like, what do I want to do with my life? Because money is definitely not the only thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you don't want to learn that by the time you're 50.
Yeah.
You want to learn that very early on.
Yeah, I truly believe too is that a lot of people, they want to go with what they're passionate about. And I feel as if like when I first was a kid, I was like, dude, I want to be an astronaut. Fuck no, I don't want to be an astronaut now. Like that shit's kind of scary if I think about it. But it really what it comes down to is that people don't really understand what passion can be about sometimes. I truly was able to find what I'm passionate about through discovery. You know, just trial and error, doing things throughout my life that usually I wouldn't think to do. And then you fall in love with it. Like, we knock on people's doors. Like, nothing is sexy about that. Nothing is sexy about us walking around all day. But what it is great is the fact that we can make impact and the fact that we can serve a greater purpose in ourselves. And that was the passion. And who would have thought it would have been, it wasn't that I woke up one day and was like, man, I can't wait to be the greatest door-to-door salesman ever live. Never once thought that, probably. But the simple fact that now I'm where I'm at, it's kind of like, I love doing it. I wake up every day fueled to do it.
That's all I think about, man. I wake up, I'm gonna be the best.
Can't wait to be a door-to-door salesman, dude.
No, but I get what you mean. I get what you mean. There's definitely like a part of like the things that we want to achieve tied to a sexiness about it as well.
Yeah.
You'll meet a lot of people, especially in Miami, that have really nice titles, but not really good incomes from what they do, right? Like you're a luxury real estate agent. How many luxury properties have you sold? Nothing, but the title is much more sexier.
It is sexy.
So it doesn't matter what you do or what it does for you, right? That would probably be a better metric to pick the way you want to lead your life.
Yeah, it all is found by what you're getting for it. Like you said, the reward factor. And
sales is always good because there's no barrier of entry, right? Like you could be anybody. You don't have to be good at sales. You just have to be willing to get good at sales.
Exactly. And I think it just comes down to 3 things, honestly. Like we say it in every interview is positive attitude, right? Being the person that's going to keep your head high. Yeah, I feel like in any sales job, you're going to have very high highs and you're going to have very low lows. And the most important thing is not necessarily letting things get to you. Like you always got to keep a head high. The second thing is working hard. You know, hard work is something that is, it comes with rewards. And any other job where it's like mopping floors and stuff like that, you can give 70% effort and get the results that you get put in. In a sales organization where commission is what you're sold upon, you need to give 110% effort to get any type of result at all. So you got to continuously give it your all. And then coachability is key as well. You know, being able to be the person that learns fast and being able to be the person that rolls with the punches and then not having the ability to give up. I feel like what I love most about what we do is that we do move away a lot for work. And it kind of structures it in a way as where we don't really have an opportunity to give up. Like, yeah, we can quit, but there's obstacles that we need to go through in order to give up. And that was what it was for me my first year. It was a simple fact that if I needed money to fly home to quit, I didn't have money to fly home to quit. So therefore I didn't quit. And then through that time of growth and figuring out like, wow, this shit sucks, but I'm actually getting better and I'm seeing myself become somebody I wasn't when I first started, was the beauty of it. And I feel like in any organization, you could see the same. The results aren't gonna come right away, but gradually they'll come. And so will the money, so will the rewards, so will the happiness, and leads to a successful life.
Well, dude, hitting back on the trainability part, I feel like that's a huge struggle, right? For anybody, really, me included. Like taking constructive criticism without getting defensive.
Yep.
Try that. That's hard, right?
Yeah,
like first, you have to trust the person telling it to you. He needs credibility. But secondly, you have to let down your ego to then go learn, right? Like the imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're not good enough, becomes solely when you're a student pretending to be a teacher, right? And if you're a student, you can never be an imposter because you're always there to learn. It is usually the imposters that are students pretending to teach the class, and people can smell your bullshit from a mile away. So being trainable is probably the most important part, but the question is finding a mentor that is doing better than you, right? And it exists in every single field, because sales isn't just, to me, sales is almost just like running a business, where you're going out there and you're hunting for your kill every single day. Same thing with a business. You have to go out there and make it happen. You have to acquire customers. You need to sell your product and make money off of it, essentially. There's no guarantee that this will work out for you.
Facts.
And off of that same logic, you need to be willing to understand that you're gonna make mistakes, and somebody knows more than you. And they have done this longer than you. The best way to get better is not by reinventing the wheel every time, but by taking something that somebody's done very well and doing it even better.
Trusting the process.
100%. Because that's what makes people good at sales. I tell people all the time, like, talent does not make you good at sales. If you memorize exactly what I say, the way I say it, and start saying it the way I do,
you're gonna be successful.
You're gonna be successful.
Yep.
Did that take talent? No, that take a lot of memorization.
Third grade reading level. Third grade reading level and some memorization.
I feel like in this life, we don't get to pick, actually, who we become. We don't get to pick what we do, actually. We just get to pick our habits, and our habits will decide our future. So we have no control of the exact future, just the habits that then go into it, right? And positivity is definitely one of them, right? Trainability is one of them. Hard work, 100%, but that's just a barrier of entry, right? Like, if you work your ass off, there may be a chance you might succeed, but there's a certainty that you will fail if you do not work your ass off. So it's kind of just a barrier of entry, but what else habit do you think like is critical to being successful?
So I think what's critical, what a critical characteristic is to be successful is having integrity. So like it kind of ties to all three, but it ties together as to one, is being the guy that doesn't just say they're gonna do it, but actually gets it done. You know, I feel like a lot of people that we meet, you know, we interview people for a living. Like, we're constantly talking to young adults and people that are hungry, some people aren't, but everybody likes to talk a really big game, but no one's putting in the proper actions or the proper effort to make it happen. When I set goals, I always have the mindset of telling everybody. You know, I wanna make sure that everybody knows what I'm shooting for, because it gives me more of a reason to succeed. And that relates to integrity, because if I tell my mom I'm gonna run the top team in the company this year, and I tell my cousin and my friends and everyone that I hold dearly in my life, and I don't do it, that doesn't make me someone of integrity. So I kind of hold myself accountable, and one, telling people that, hey, if you trust the process, you're gonna succeed. And then two, hold myself accountable in the way of knowing that I've gotta do what I said I was gonna do. I gotta finish, I gotta complete what I said I was gonna set out to get done. And
honestly, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Being a man or woman of your word is probably the most crucial thing of being successful, right? Like saying something and then following through. I feel like anything that made you not do the thing that you set out to do is an excuse.
Facts.
Now, some excuses are legitimate, like, why didn't you make it happen? I got into a car accident, or I broke my leg. Like, it's pretty legitimate, but it is an excuse, right? So going out of your way against all adversity, making the thing happen, is probably essentially what people get paid for nowadays, right? Like the adaptability to the problem, That's essentially the most valuable skill set that a lot of people can have at a young age. And especially in sales, I feel like that's a big thing too, right? Like you got to keep your word, but the market's changing constantly. So you got to keep your integrity too. I'm not going to lie, cheat, steal just to gain my commission, just to get what I want out of this, right? I got to be honest with it. Yeah. I said I was going to help people. I'm going to help people now that the odds have changed, right? But I feel like the way you handle success is also not a good metric. The way you handle failure is much better of a metric to see if the person will be successful, right? Like it's easier to have more integrity when you have money. Yeah. But when you're down in the dumps, are you gonna lie, cheat, steal,
do whatever
do the
it
wrong
takes to get it
thing
done
to then get your edge over the other person? So definitely like planning where you're headed is almost as important as all those other things, right? Having a set plan. A fool with a plan will always beat a genius without one. Right, you heard that one? I feel like that can't be truer than anything else, because if you don't know what you're going to accomplish this year, you'll have days where you wake up and you're like, what am I going to do today? If you're having those days, dude, you're already losing to the person who knows exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like a plan is key. You know, every night before I go to bed, and it's essential. So if you're listening, do it. Take a to-do list. I don't know about you, but right before I go to bed, I think of all the things I need to get done the next day, and I write it down. Whether it's to get a dentist appointment, whether it's to call somebody, have a hard conversation, tell my mom I love her. I do all these different things right before the night. So I go to bed thinking about what I need to do the next day, and when I wake up, I mean, if you had a beautiful dream, you're probably not going to remember, but I could just go to my to-do list and bang, I have my entire day planned out. I have every day planned out from doing this podcast today all the way until what I'm doing Saturday night.
And then you get
everything
a reward
in between.
system, right? At the end of the day, you look at your to-do list, you're like, dude, I did all of these things.
It feels good.
It feels good. Let me go and do that again.
Yep, and if you continuously do that, you don't understand the amount that you can accomplish with sight of it. Like if you know what you're gonna get done every single day and you get it done, not only is it gonna encourage you to do that again, but you're doing things that you wouldn't be able to accomplish in months.
There's no way.
Because you're compounding it. You're compounding
Success
each and every
without
time.
a plan is like guerrilla warfare. Like you're fighting an enemy, you don't know what they look like, right? Like what are you essentially trying to go get? There needs to be an end goal, but like smaller tasks throughout the day are super important. But I feel like even a bigger goal, or reverse engineered, is super important. If your plan is to make 100 grand, how much do you have to make per day?
Yeah.
How much do you have to make per hour? And if you can reverse engineer that, it will be a lot clearer to then go achieve that thing.
Agreed. Yeah, I feel like everything it comes with a plan. You know, it's good to wing it, but if you have it structured as to how you're going to get there, like everybody's going to have a goal, like how much money they want to make, whatever goals they want to set. I like to categorize my goals in different ways. So I have a spiritual goal, so like the connection that I want to get with God, how I'm going to get there. I have a mental goal, so the things I want to learn this year, things that I want to develop, like speaking Spanish. Okay, that's a mental goal. Emotional goal is just how I want to feel about myself and the different ways that I want to look myself in the mirror and see where I'm getting as a person. Physical goal is obviously categorized between sleep, diet, and fitness and working out. And then tangible goal is something where is that you want to accomplish it. Like if I want to go to Mykonos with the boys, that was a tangible goal for me. And the last one is a relational goal. Like relational goal is like the relationships I want to have in my life and how I want to better them. You know, whether it's both my mom, with my friends, with my roommate, you know, the boy, Sherry. Yep, and the last one's the financial goal. So, I mean, it's as simple as just knowing how much money you want to make this year. Like you said, $100,000. Okay, how much do I have to make a month? How much do I have to make a week? How much do I have to make an hour? Those are the easiest goals to reverse engineer. Believe it or not, I lose sight of the financial goal when I'm constantly killing it and all the other goals that I have in my life, because I know if I'm spiritually inclined, my relationships are good, my mental's good, my emotions good, everything in my life is coming together. When I go out there and I need to put the foot to the grindstone and just continuously work hard at something, it's easier to be done, you know, because I know that I've accomplished so much more than just what I'm making. You know, at the end of the day, my goal has always been to shoot higher. You know, I think if you're having a financial goal, shoot for something unrealistic. You know, I think people are more scared to fail and then set a big goal and be like, oh, dude, there's no shot I sell 300 accounts this year or 400 accounts this year. But in reality, if you're shooting for something more, even if you don't hit it, you're going to be better off than if you shot for something very little. So always have the biggest goal when it comes to that. And then it's easier to be gravitated towards it when everything else in your aspects of your life is empowered.
Yeah, and like kind of like going back off to like setting the goal and just winging it. Like, yeah, you should definitely have a goal in sight and know exactly what you want. But that's another important part of, I guess, getting the job done is the ability to wing it, right? Like
Improv.
you're not always gonna have everything figured out.
No.
Nobody has everything figured out. You have a general gist of where you want to take this.
You're the king at this.
And then you just go ahead and you give everything you got to those different things. You have different substatus of data where you're analyzing, you're like, this didn't work, this worked, that didn't work. But a lot of people just stay right there where they need to be over prepared for the thing that they need to do. But a lot of it's just setting a goal, having a plan, and just hitting it. In the process of just going out there and winging it, having your goal in mind, a lot of real learning is actually done, right? Like it's not done in the classroom, it's done out there in the field. Hence why we picked the name Class Dismissed, right? Like a lot of the learning that we've done in the past 5 years have not been in the class. Class had to be dismissed for us to then become the person that we wanted to. And I've learned a lot of really cool things in college. In hindsight, I loved college. It was a great time.
It was great.
I was in fraternity,
Partying's
a lot of
great.
fun. The only reason I ended up not actually finishing it because of the opportunity cost. It was way too high. The cost to sit in class was worth more than what I could be doing with that time to then 10x my actual income.
Exactly. I remember to the T of when I decided to drop out, it was simple as like, hey, can I give 50% effort to this job working, doing sales, and then also go to school? And the answer was one was going to suffer, if not both. So if you go 100% into it, dude, you can get a crazy amount of money. Mm-hmm. And it was like, even if I graduate with a really good degree, like I wouldn't make even a fraction of what I'd be making, really running this program the right way.
I don't want people to watch this podcast and drop out of college, don't get me wrong.
Right.
That's not the goal here. The goal is that life is far more gray than black and white than the way we seem it to be, right? It is not go to school, get a degree, and that's how you'll be successful.
Thanks.
If anything, it is usually the gray, right? It is usually learning a skill set that a lot of people do not learn in school, right? There is no sales class in school for what we learn. You need to go out there in the market, find a mentor, and fix a problem. And if you can fix a problem for somebody, you will then get paid according to the difficulty of that problem.
Right, and even all the students that are listening right now, like if you are the type of person that needs a degree to get where you are and where you want to be, when you graduate, there's going to be 50,000 people graduating with the same degree as you. What's going to separate you from every other person that was reading the same books as you? And that one thing is going to be experience and getting your hands dirty. And people in today's society lack that. Everybody wants to find what they need to know in a book, but in reality, where it's best learned is in the field.
Well, the saddest story ever told, and honestly it's told way too much, is wasted potential, right?
Facts.
How many people do we know that have all this potential in the world and are not where they want to be?
Probably a lot of people that are watching this right now.
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of it kind of reloops to, it does not take talent to be successful because there's an abundance of talent. There's actually too much talent out there in the world, and a lot of people rely on that talent because they think that because they're talented, one day they will be successful. But it is, a lot of times you see the person that's not talented at all be successful all the time. Like, how did this guy make it? And it goes to show it was really the habits that this person had. He's working harder than you. He's more positive than you are in adversity, right? He's trainable. He asks a lot of questions, or she. And while you're there just thinking like, dude, I'm better than you, so I don't have a reason to prove it, right? A lot of people that do find success find it in those habits. It's never been in the classroom. It's never been talking about it or preparing for it.
Thanks.
It's always been doing the thing that you're supposed to do, especially when it feels scary.
Love it. Encourage everyone here to take some risk, honestly. And if you like what you heard on the podcast, we're going to be dropping these weekly, specifically just to give thought and give knowledge on things that we learned outside of the classroom, and being able to empower young entrepreneurs to live a great life and kind of know where to start and what to shoot for.
So yeah, we're going to end it with the quote: if you don't want to look at the price tag when you're shopping, then don't look at the time when you're working. Have a great night, folks.
That was a good one.
That was good?
Yeah, all right, really.